Hello all and welcome to this hands-on lab. In our lab today, we will learn how to peer AWS Transit Gateways. This is to connect two VPCs in different regions. Before we continue further ahead, a couple of things to keep in mind. Using AWS services leveraged in this lab can incur charges. Hence, ensure that you clean up all resources after completing this lab. Reference URLs. This particular URL mentioned here will be helpful to you. You can feel free to reference this, URL while you are doing this lab, right? I will also have this URL posted in the description of this video. Prerequisites. Prerequisites for this hands-on lab is knowledge of AWS Transit Gateway service. If you do not know this service, then pause this video right here. Go and look at this overview tutorial, right? The URL is mentioned right here. Again, I will have it mentioned in the description of this video as well. Watch this tutorial, it's a short tutorial, and then come back and continue with this hands-on lab. Recommendation. Recommendation would be to actually do this lab first, wherein we basically connect two VPCs in the same region before you continue further ahead with two VPCs in different regions. That is the current lab, right? But it's just a recommendation. There is nothing that stops you from going ahead with this lab first, right? That's totally up to you. I'm just making a recommendation. So if you want to finish this lab first and then come back over here, the URL to the lab is right here. If not, let's just continue further ahead. Scenario for our lab today. You have two AWS regions. So in my case, I'm going to take North Virginia and North California. And I'm just pointing this thing out, but I'm going to refer to as North Virginia going forward as NV and North California as NC. So you will see in the naming conventions and everywhere that you will have NV or NC right in the beginning, right? So all my names have been prepended with NV or NC. That's because I want to ensure that I'm referring to the right region. There are multiple regions in this particular hands-on lab. And yes, at some point in time, it can get complex. At the same time, it could get confusing as well. But I'll try to keep it as simple as possible and have the right naming conventions. So if you're not using North Virginia, North California, it doesn't matter. You can use the regions of your choice. Please ensure that you use a good naming convention. The reason I'm saying this is because I don't want 10 different comments saying that, okay, now this is not working. Just ensure that your naming is right. If not, just follow with these two regions. Even if you're using some other region, just follow the same naming convention. Okay. Both these regions have one unpeered VPC with one subnet. So you have two regions, right? NV and NC. You have one VPC, which is unpeered, and of course a subnet in each of these VPCs. Now you need to telnet to port 22 from a public-facing EC2 instance launched in NV VPC. So you have, let's say, a public-facing EC2 over here. Let's just put in EC2, right? And you need to telnet to a private EC2 instance running in NC's VPC. So let's say you have another EC2 over here. This is a private EC2, and you basically need to telnet to this EC2 instance, right? So we will try and ping to this EC2 instance running in the North California region. Remember, this EC2 has a public IP address. This has only a private IP address. The scenario is pretty simple. Remember, these two VPCs are not peered, they're in different regions. So now you need to figure out how are you going to make this thing work. Step one. So the first thing that we will do is we'll try to complete most of our basic setup for North Virginia region. Okay. So whatever is your North Virginia, let's go to that particular region and let's get started. So this is North Virginia, as you can see. And what is the first thing that we are going to do? We are going to create one VPC with name NVVPC1. So that's the naming convention that I'm going to use. So go here, go to VPCs, create VPC. I'm going to say NVVPC1. Okay, and I'm going to give it a CIDR block of 10.0.0.0/16. So 10.0.0/16, right? Scroll down. Tenancy is good. Everything is good. Create VPC. So we created one VPC. Now we are going to create one subnet, right? This is the name of that subnet, NVVPC1 subnet 1. And this is a CIDR block. So let's go here. Let's go to subnets. Create subnet. Select your VPC. Subnet name is going to be NVVPC1. Subnet 1. NVVPC1 subnet 1. And availability is on no preference. My CIDR block is 10.0.1.0/24. Perfect. Create subnet, and a subnet should have been created. Now we will provision one internet gateway. So let's go to internet gateways. Create internet gateway. We are going to call it NVIGW1. IGW1. Okay. Create internet gateway. Actions. Attach to VPC. We select a VPC. Attach internet gateway. So we completed these 3 steps. Our gateway has been connected. Now rename NVVPC1's default route table to this. So go to route tables. The one it seems like. Okay, so we will call it NVVPC1/RT. Right, that's the name. Yeah, that's the name. Change the default route table to add a route to its internet gateway. So go to routes, scroll down, edit routes, add, and where's internet gateway? The internet gateway, save changes, scroll down, and we added the route. So we've completed this step. Ensure that the subnet is associated with VPC's default route table. Subnet associations, and you should have and without explicit association, this subnet associated. Perfect. So we have completed step 1 of the setup for North Virginia. Step 2. Now we need to create a security group, right? One security group. This is the name of the security group and associated with our VPC. We will also open an inbound port 22. So let's do that. So go to EC2. And scroll down and go to security groups. Create security group. What is the name of a security group is NV VPC1 EC2 SG. So we are going to copy this, paste the same thing in description, select our VPC, that is this one. We have to open port 22 and we are going to open it right there for us to be able to SSH and create security group. So we created the security group. Now we will launch an EC2 instance, right? And we are going to call our EC2 as EC21. This particular EC2 instance is a T2 micro Linux EC2 instance, and it is with a public address. And go to EC2 dashboard, instances, launch instance, Linux 2, press T2 micro. T2 micro is selected. Next. It should be launched in our VPC and it should have public IP. Next. 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 Select a security group right there. Perfect. Review and launch. Launch. This is our key pair. Check. Launch instances. So we completed this step. Step number 3. In step number 3, we will provision transit gateway, right? So let's do that. So let's go to VPC again, right? So go back to VPCs. And we need to scroll down to transit gateways right there. So this is transit gateways, right? And we are going to provision a transit gateway. So NV TG1, again NV TG1, right? Ensure that the naming is correct. You have to give it an ASN. Just give this big number. So basically, if you don't want to copy, just go here, give this big number, should be good. And if you're wondering how I got that by clicking on info. So we close it, click on info right here, and this thing will just pop up. Okay. And then you can copy it. Everything is good. CIDR is optional. Create transit gateway. And we created our transit gateway. So we've completed these 3 steps. After creating the transit gateway, we need to add our VPC as an attachment. So go to transit gateway attachments, create transit gateway attachment, and we are going to call this a NV TG, what are we going to call it? NV TG VPC 1. Okay, something like that. Okay, and our transit gateway is probably still being provisioned. Okay, let's wait for a couple of seconds. Hopefully it shows up. The VPC. Okay, not yet. So if it takes some time, then just wait. Sometimes it takes a while to provision the transit gateway. Let me just go back, check. It's available now. So let's try this again. Okay, it's available. Perfect. So NVTG1, VPC1. Okay. Our attachment type is a VPC. This is a VPC ID, right? NVTG1, VPC1. Create transit gateway attachment. Okay, so we have attached this, and now we need to observe transit gateways route table. Let's see if we can see anything in the route table and if the route has been propagated or not. Let's see. Propagations. That might take a while. But it should eventually show up over here. Go back to transit gateway attachments. It's still pending. Refresh it. See. So it looks like this is going to take some time. So I'm going to pause the video and then again start recording when this becomes available. So our gateway attachment is now available. So let's go and look at the route table again. Propagations. Let's see, we do see something, it seems like, right here. Right, so this route has been propagated. And if you go to routes, scroll down, you will see that this particular VPC route has been propagated, right? Right here, you can see that. Okay, so we completed step number 3. Step number 4, we need to modify our security group, right, to open inbound port for Telnet, that is port 23. And port 23 should be open to the CIDR block of the other VPC, right? So that is North California's VPC, VPC2. This is its CIDR block. Remember, it's yet to be provisioned, but right now we're just doing this setup. So we are going to make an assumption that eventually this VPC will come, and this is going to be a CIDR block. So go back to your security group, EC2, right? And scroll down to security groups. This is your security group right there. Edit inbound rules. Add a rule. Over here, custom TCP at 23. And this is going to be for this particular CIDR block. So 198 right there. Save rules. And we are good. So we made this change. So we modified a security group to open this port, and it should be open for this CIDR block. So step 4 is done. Step 5, modify the route table of the VPC to route traffic to transit gateway, right? But what traffic are we going to route to transit gateway? Traffic of the other VPC, right? So that is, this is absolutely critical. It's the other VPC, the North California VPC, right? So go back to VPC, right? And scroll down to route tables. Go to the route table. And now we need to route traffic to Transit Gateway. So add a route, edit routes, add route 198. This particular CIDR block, this is the North California VPCs CIDR block. It's going to go to Transit Gateway. See your Transit Gateway attachment right there. Save changes. And it has been added. So we have completed this step. So we have completed the basic setup for North Virginia. Now, a very similar setup needs to be performed for North California. So you can either do this on your own. Okay, I'm going to go through these steps really very fast. If you want to go through it on your own, that's great. Then you can directly go ahead and jump to step number 11, right after I complete North California. You're more than welcome to do that as well. Otherwise, I will quickly complete North California. One word of caution, right? Ensure that your naming conventions and your CIDR blocks and everything is correct so that you don't have any issues continuing further ahead. Okay, so let's do a similar setup now for North California, right? So we're going to go back, we're going to go here, and we are going to go to North California and change our regions. The first thing that we are going to do is we are going to create one. We're going to create one VPC, and this is the name of the VPC, and you know the CIDR block. Okay, so go to your VPCs, right? Create VPC, NC, VPC2, 198, right there. And we are good. So create VPC. So we completed this step. Now we'll create one subnet, and that's the name of the subnet. So go over there, subnets, create subnet, select your VPC. We're going to say NC VPC2 subnet 1, right? No preference, and it is going to be 198.0. What is that? 1.0/24. This is the CIDR block of your subnet. Okay, scroll down. Create subnet. Now we launch our internet gateway. So create internet gateway and CIGW2 and CIGW2. Create internet gateway, actions, attach to VPC, select your VPC, attach. So we completed the first 3 steps. Now we need to rename the route table. This is our route table. We're going to call it NC VPC2 RT. Save. And then we will change the default route table to add route to IGW. Okay, so routes, edit route, add route, for of course for internet gateway. It's right there. This is your internet gateway. Save changes, and that's good. And we need to ensure that our subnet is associated right there. There it is. Awesome. So we completed step 6. Now step 7, we are now going to go ahead and go to EC2. And we are going to go ahead and create our security group, right? So go to security groups and now create security group. We will give this NC VPC2 EC2 SG. Same thing is going to be the description. VPC is going to be RVPC. This is the one right there. We add an inbound rule over here for SSH and we're going to open it up, right? And everything looks good. So create security group. Now we are going to go ahead and launch our EC2 instance right there. So launch instances. This is going to be the name of our EC2 instance, but this particular EC2 instance is not going to have a public IP address. It's only going to have a private IP. So launch one T2 Micro Linux EC2 instance without public IP address. Okay. So select T2 Micro, configure, it should be in our VPC. Subnet is fine. Public IP is disabled. Remember, without. Next. Add tags, security group. Select your security group right there. Review and launch. And launch. Select your key pair. Launch instances. Okay, so we completed step number 7. Okay. Now we need to provision a transit gateway in Northern California. So let's do that. Go back to transit gateways right there. And now we will provision our transit gateway. Create transit gateway and CTG2 and CTG2. Again, for that ASN thing, copy from here. Right here, good. And create transit gateway, right? So we completed these 3 steps. Now we need to add our VPC as an attachment and then look at the route table. So where is our transit gateway attachments is right there. Create a transit gateway attachment. You can call it NC TG2 VPC2 transit gateway. Okay. Still being provisioned, it seems like. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording till the time it gets provisioned and then continue further ahead. So our transit gateway is now provisioned and available. So we should be able to create our attachment. Click on transit gateway attachments, create transit gateway attachment, NC TG2 VPC2. Select your transit gateway. Attachment type is VPC. And select your VPC right there. And create transit gateway attachment. So this has been created. Now let us go and look at the route table to see if the route has been propagated or not. It takes a while, so just hang in there. right? Still pending. Hopefully this one gets provisioned a little faster. There it is. I think I saw one propagation coming in. Let's see if the routes are in or not. So it seems like it was propagated or it's in the progress of being, it's available now. Click on routes. And there it is. The route has been propagated, as you can see. Right? So now step number 8 is over. Step number 9. So we need to now go back and modify our security groups, right? So right there, scroll down, security groups. This is our security group right there. And we need to open an inbound port for Telnet, port number 23. And we need to open it for the other VPC. So that is North Virginia's VPC. And this is its CIDR block. So edit inbound rules, add a rule, custom TCP 23, 10.0.0/16, save rules. And we have completed this step. Now we need to modify VPC's route table. So go back, go to route table, right there. So the route table, routes, edit routes, and we need to add a route to transit gateway. So add route, of course, for the other VPC, we need to direct the traffic to our transit gateway. This is our gateway attachment, save changes, and we should be able to see all three of them right here. Okay, so we have completed step 10. Step number 11. So now we have basically completed the basic setup for both North Virginia and North California. So now we are going to continue further ahead. Now, remember what we are trying to accomplish in this lab. We're trying to accomplish that two transit gateways, right, TGs, can communicate with each other so that VPCs in those regions, right, in each of these regions can actually communicate with each other. But for these VPCs to communicate, remember they are not peered. That's why you need the transit gateways to communicate. So once the transit gateway communication is set up, these VPCs that are not paired with each other will be able to communicate with each other. So in order for the two transit gateways to communicate with each other, we need to create a peering attachment, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to add a peering attachment for North Virginia's Transit Gateway. And we will, for that, we will need North Virginia Transit Gateway's Gateway ID. So let's do one thing. Let's first go to North Virginia, right? And Go to transit gateways. This is transit gateways right there. I'm going to open up a notepad. And I need you to copy this transit gateway ID. Right? So copy this transit gateway ID, paste it right there. Remember, this is NVTG1. Okay, now let's go back to Northern California. And now over here in Northern California, we are going to set up a peering attachment. So scroll further down, transit gateway attachments, create a transit gateway attachment. We are going to say NCNVTG1 TG2 peering. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. This is our transit gateway in Northern California. Now, in attachment type, you need to select a peering connection, correct? And then it is in my account, in my case, select the region. So in my case, the region is North Virginia. And this is where I need my North Virginia Transit Gateway ID right there. Copy it and paste it right there, right? And you have the right name and value over here. So create a transit gateway attachment. Remember, this is a peering attachment. So click on create transit gateway attachment. Okay. Now, as you can see, it has been created successfully. What you need to see over here is this. First is that it's a peering attachment, right? If I remove the filter, you'll be able to see both. It's not a VPC attachment, it's a peering attachment, right? And it is basically initiating a request to the other transit gateway in North Virginia to peer with itself. Like, hey, will you connect with me? It's that kind of a situation. I'm sending you an invitation. Would you like to connect with me? Would you like to be my friend? So I'm sending you a friend request, right? So that's what it is doing. It is initiating that request. So now, as you see, the status has changed to pending acceptance right here, right? That means I have sent you the request and I'm waiting for you to accept it. So North California Transit Gateway has created a peering connection, has sent a request to North Virginia's Transit Gateway, and is now waiting for that request to get accepted. Okay, so now let's go to North California, North Virginia. Right, so we basically created this peering attachment. Now we have to accept this. So North Virginia has to accept this peering attachment request. So let's go to North Virginia, right here. And let's see what all we have over here. If you see, right here is the peering request, right? And it's saying pending acceptance. It has come from, of course, from North California, right? As you can see, requester region. So, and so North California sent you a friend request, right? Hey, will you be my friend? So if North Virginia thinks, okay, yeah, I'll talk with you. I'll communicate with you. In that case, North Virginia has to take an action and accept this transit gateway attachment request, right? So let's go ahead and accept this. So click on accept, say accept. And now you have officially accepted the request from North California's transit gateway to become a peering connection, right? So refresh is currently still pending, but it will be available in a couple of seconds. So what you have done is we have completed step 12 and we have accepted North California Transit Gateway's peering connection. So what you have now, right, is now it's become a little more interesting. So you have your region right here, North Virginia. You have another region right here, right, North California. You have your VPC going in over here, of course, with your subnet. You have your EC2. This EC2, remember, has a public IP address. I'm going to show it like this, right? And you also have a transit gateway attached to yourself. Over here, you all again have your VPC. You have your EC2. This EC2 has a private IP address, so no public IP address, and has its transit gateway. And now these two transit gateways are basically peered or connected. That means these two transit gateways can now talk with each other. This will enable this VPC and this VPC, which are unpeered, to talk with each other, which will in turn enable this EC2 to basically send a telnet request to this EC2. That means it will basically enable both the EC2s to communicate with each other. So I hope that this is clear, right? So we have completed this step. Step number 13, modify transit gateways route tables, right? So this is for both the transit gateway, that means in both the regions. So let's go back. Let's refresh this. Peering connection, it seems is it's still pending for some reason. Just go ahead and see. Hopefully it is still pending, it seems like. Okay. Let's see if we can continue further ahead. So modify route tables of both the transit gateways. So scroll further down, go to transit gateway route table, go to routes. Remember, we are in North California, right? So create a static route. Now you need to create a static route in North California for North Virginia's VPC, right? So this is North California. The CIDR block is going to be 10.1.0. This is North Virginia's VPC. Choose an attachment. This is the attachment. So anything that is coming for this VPC will be sent to this particular attachment and create a static route, right? Now go back to North Virginia. Scroll down. Okay. Go to routes, create a static route. CIDR block is 198. This is North California's VPC. It's an active attachment right here. This is our transit gateway attachment. Create a static route. Okay, let's see if our peering connection is now available. Awesome, as you can see, it's available. So we have completed this step, right? Okay, so our setup is now complete and our transit gateways are now connected. Our EC2s are up and running, our VPCs have been set up, right? Our route tables have been modified. Everything has been done. So if everything was done correctly, then our step number 14 should be successful. So let's add SSH into our public IP EC2. So you go back to the EC2 that you had provisioned in North Virginia, right here. Copy its IP address. And we will try to SSH to this particular IP address. So copy the IP address. Okay. And we will SSH into this IP address. So let's go to our putty right here. This is our IP address. Copy it right there. Appearance. Change the font. Connection. Authentication. This is a private key. Open. Yes. EC2-user. And you are logged in. So we have SSH into our public facing EC2 instance. Now we will run an update. So sudo yum update, right? So let us continue with the update first. So our update has been completed. I'm going to clear the screen. Now it's going to be sudo yum. What is this? Sudo yum install telnet. Yes. Okay. Again, clear the screen. And now we need to telnet to the private IP address of the EC2 that was launched in North California. So go back to North California, get that EC2's private IP address. So the private IP address, paste it right here. And we are going to say what? Telnet so and so IP address on port number 22, right? This is the command. Telnet IP address port 22. So telnet IP address port 22, copy and paste it right here. Now, if everything that we have done so far is right, then this telnet should be successful. So hit enter. So if you face challenges or if it does not work, then either one of your routes are not correct or your IP address is not correct or your permissions are not correct in your security group. So there are multiple areas where you will need to go and check. So it is not going further ahead. So let's go back and check, right? So first let's go and look at a security group. We open port for Telnet. Okay, I think it is open. Okay, so that is good. And then we go to route tables, the route tables. Okay, still trying. Okay, so let's go VPC. And then over here, check the route tables. See if all the routes are there. Let's check. The route over here is fine. Let's go and check our transit gateway route table. If the routes are there for both static, so saying okay, see if this one, we can see this. Okay, I think it is correct. Okay, I was just checking some of those routes and propagations. I can find if I've made any mistake anywhere. Okay, let me just try and create another static route. Okay, I think, I believe it's showing me the route is of type VPC. I think that's where the issue lies. You see over here, this is North Virginia's VPC, right? So let's just select this static route, delete. Okay. Create a static route for 10.0.16 active, but it should go to the peering connection right here. Create static route. Okay, now let's see. I want to ensure that it is going in that. Now it is peering. See, it's not VPC, it's peering. It should be peering. Okay, so that was the mistake that I had made. I had propagated it to the wrong type. So that's why you could see VPC over here earlier. But to ensure that Virginia also has the right resource type and the right connection. Hopefully that should be correct. So route tables, routes. So this is not Virginia. This is the local route, VPC route. As you see again, I have made the same mistake over here as well. So I'm going to delete this one. This route, sorry, resource type should actually be peering. So let's delete the static route. Now we will create another one, right? So 198 right there. This is the one, peering connection. This one, sorry, my bad. This one is peering, yeah. Create static route. And now go back to routes. Scroll down and now it is peering. So now this is the right one. Okay. Let's see. There you go. It connected straight away. Right? So now you are connected to the private EC2 instance. So I'm happy that I made this mistake, because if you make the mistake, then you know where to go and check, ensure that the route propagation in the transit gateway route table is correct. It should be peering. Okay, the static route that we created, the resource type should be peering. You have to select the peering connection that we had created, right? So if you click on static route, it basically tells you choose an attachment. Choose this which says peering. As you can see, there's a gray thing right here. Yeah, choose the peering one, not the VPC one, but the peering type, right? And that's pretty much it. So now finally you are able to communicate from your public EC2 instance in one region in one VPC to another private EC2 instance in another region in another VPC, right? Which are not peered, leveraging transit gateways and setting up a peering connection between those transit gateways. So that's what this lab scenario was, and we were able to successfully accomplish that. So I hope that this hands-on lab is helpful. Please do post your comments, and I will see you shortly in some other video. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.